Drive carefully, Mom. We'll keep you safe. A place at the Christmas table. That was Emiliano's message, arrived 3 days ago, just as I finished cleaning the family cookie cutters. I read it twice, smiled as always, and I replied, I can't wait. I'll take the cookies and cranberry jam that you like. By Christmas morning, my kitchen smelled of cinnamon, cloves, and vanilla. I packed everything carefully, each cookie between sheets of waxed paper, each gift wrapped in plain red paper with jute bows. This year, I even wrote personalized notes, 1 or 2 lines about what he loved most about each grandson. The trip from Chihuahua to Ciudad Juarez took me 6 hours. I stopped only twice, once for a coffee and another to stretch my legs. The sun was low when I got to his street. I remember thinking how warm it looked. I saw the golden lights from afar, blinking through the windows like a promise of welcome. I parked in front of the house. Its yard was decorated with lights, a snowman glittered along the path. I heard laughter within, a burst of music. My heart swelled. I gathered the gifts, the cookies, the bottle of apple cider that had cooled the whole night. I walked to the porch, knocked, and waited. Nothing. I rang the bell. The music didn't stop, the laughter didn't diminish. I waited a little longer before trying the closed handle. I took a step back. I checked the time, 4:30. The invitation said 4 o'clock. Maybe they were distracted in the kitchen, I thought. I tried again. I knocked louder. I called Emiliano with no answer. I stepped off the porch and sat on the edge, cold, with a bag of cookies next to me. Inside, someone was serving wine. A child shouted with joy. Through the edge of the curtain, I saw them raise their glasses. And it was then that I realized I was watching Christmas from outside. The wind rose enough to prick my face, and I adjusted my coat. The plastic handle of the gift bag dug into my fingers, but I didn't let it go. I tried again with Emiliano. Voicemail. I sent a message, I'm here, darling, at the door. No answer. I stood for a minute more. Then I slowly sat down on the edge of the step, taking care not to crush the cookies. My knees hurt from the trip. My heart ached for a reason I couldn't yet name. Inside, the shadows moved, the cutlery clinked. Someone let out a deep laugh that Rosario inherited from her father. The curtains were parted just enough for me to see the flash of a chandelier and a glimpse of a red table runner I sewed years ago. I took up my cell phone. Nothing from Emiliano. I opened Instagram without thinking. It took me less than 5 seconds to find it. A new post from Rosario. Full hearts, full house, Christmas magic. 8 people in the photo. The table set, illuminated with candles. Emiliano and his wife at the head. Rosario and her partner on one side. Isabel with her twins. The grandchildren smiling at the barbecue in the center, the wine glasses raised high. 8 chairs, I counted, once, then again. No empty space, no folding chair in the corner, no plate untouched. I looked at the screen so long that my hands numbed. I let them. The cider in my bag was still cold. I had dressed for the warmth, not knowing I wouldn't need it. A notification sounded, a message from the Christmas group of the neighbors. Not theirs. I got up slowly. My legs were stiff, but my mind had cleared. I walked to my car without looking back. The motel room smelled slightly of chlorine and old carpet, but it was warm. That was enough. I greeted the receptionist with a soft, Merry Christmas. She barely looked up from her cell phone. Room 107, ground floor. 2 vending machines were at the end of the hallway. I didn't bother to unpack. I sat on the edge of the bed and took out my notebook, the one I used for shopping lists and reminders of medical prescriptions. That night, it became something more. I wrote a name at the top, Emiliano. Below, mortgage down payment, $35,000. Down payment for your first home. He said I could stay there whenever I wanted. I moved on to the next name, Rosario. Monthly transfers, 600 pesos since 2017. Help with daycare, birthday parties, emergency vet bill for her dog. I mentally added it up, almost 40,000 pesos. I didn't keep receipts, I just remembered. Isabel, hospital bill for the twins when they had RSV, 2,000 pesos without insurance. Car loan for a used one I co-signed. Missed 3 payments. Groceries each month, usually 400 or 500 pesos each time. I turned the page. Christmas 2021, 800 pesos in gifts. Thanksgiving, dinner ordered, 500 pesos. Rosario said she was too tired to cook. Emiliano offered nothing. I underlined the last entry, not out of anger, just to see it clearly. I went back and started to do the math. 184,000 pesos, more or less. Most of it since I retired. I never kept much for myself. I used to think that meant I was generous. That night, I just felt I had emptied silently. I thought about the table, 8 chairs, all occupied. Not one person noticed I was missing. I closed the notebook and put my hand in the bag by my side. I unwrapped one of the sugar cookies I made that morning, Rosario's favorites, with grated lemon and almond. It crumbled too easily, just like me. I brushed the crumbs from the quilt and looked at the ceiling until dawn. At dawn, I sat on the edge of the motel bathtub, brushing my teeth in silence. The mirror was warped, but showed enough. I looked tired but not surprised. My reflection led me to another kitchen in a different silence. Rosario was 13 years old. Her brothers had already left for school, but she stayed behind, hugging her backpack to her chest. "You're all I have," she said, short, with her eyes still full of sleep. I had just prepared her lunch, ham sandwich, apple slices, a cookie split in half so it would last. I kissed her forehead. "I know," I said, without knowing how that phrase would grow heavy with the years. After Daniel died, a car accident on a Tuesday without warning, I didn't allow myself to fall apart. I walked to work every morning at the library, cleaned houses on weekends. I skipped lunch so the children could have a second helping at dinner. We lived without cable, without designer clothes, without a dryer, some winters without heat, but never without us. I never asked for anything in return, not even a thank you, not even a Mother's Day card. I said love was enough. Rosario used to write poems to me. Isabel brought me wildflowers from the road. Emiliano once made a chore list and called himself the man of the house at age 7. At that time, love wasn't expensive. It existed only in small, gentle gestures. I looked at myself in the mirror now, ran a hand over my cheeks, a little more sunken than last year. I thought about all the meals I cooked, beds I made, the overtime I worked so no one else felt the cold, and yet I was never enough. I turned off the bathroom light and reached for my bag. When I got home, the poinsettias on my porch were withered, but the house still smelled slightly of cinnamon and polish. I left the untouched gift bags on the kitchen table and stood there for a moment, unsure whether I should unpack them or pretend I never filled them. I prepared tea, sat in my usual chair, and turned on my cell phone. The screen lit up with 24 family group messages. None were from Christmas Eve. They were all from Christmas Day. Emiliano, I hope everyone had a good time. Rosario's barbecue was amazing. Isabel, next year, you have to plan ahead. I think Mom got confused with the date. Rosario, well, she hasn't said anything. Maybe she changed her mind. Nobody called. Nobody asked where I was. They just moved forward as if I were an optional guest. There was a knock at the door. Mrs. Morales, my next-door neighbor, was there with a container of pumpkin soup and her usual kind eyes. "I just wanted to check on you," she said. "I saw you arrive late on Christmas Eve." We sat for a few minutes while I pretended not to feel fragile. Then she reached into her bag and said, "I hesitated to show you this, but I think you should know." It was a screenshot from a local Facebook group, Circle of Support for Moms Over 50, with Rosario's name at the top. My mom is driving me crazy, always getting involved, asking us to take her help with technology and then expecting us to include her in everything, like our nanny and personal bank. It's exhausting. Below, 2 comments, some laughing, others nodding. My stomach turned cold. The tea grew bitter in my mouth. I thanked Mrs. Morales and walked her to the door. Then I sat down again with my cell phone in hand and wrote a message for the group. "I was outside your door. More than an hour. I saw everything. But I didn't send it. I deleted it and opened my bank's app instead." The next morning, I prepared stronger coffee than usual and sat at the kitchen table with a stack of bank statements I printed at the library. Page after page, line after line. Names I knew too well. Emiliano, mortgage down payment, Christmas flights, football camp. Rosario, weekly transfers, nursery school tuition, new tires. Isabel, emergency copayments, groceries, birthday parties, gas cards. I underlined each payment with a pen. The ink ran a little on the paper, but I needed to see it. I added up the columns twice, 182,612 pesos. That was almost all I had earned since I retired. My pension, just 2,000 pesos a month, was barely enough for my utilities after covering their needs. And they never noticed when the lights were dimming here. I thought about the sugar cookies, still in the freezer, the ones Rosario liked, with cardamom and grated lemon. I once sent a dozen to her office because she said her colleagues loved them. She never reimbursed me for the shipping. I opened the bank app and reviewed each recurring payment. Delete. 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 800 for Rosario. Gone. 500 for Isabel. Gone. Payment for Emiliano's secondary car. Gone. I hesitated before canceling the health insurance Isabel added last year. Then I canceled it anyway. For the first time in years, there was no money scheduled to leave my account. The silence in my house wasn't empty. It was full of something I hadn't felt in a long time: control. I closed the app and stored the bank statements in a folder. Then I took the cell phone, not to send a message, but to make an appointment with my credit union. Emiliano opened the door with his usual half-smile, the one he used when he wasn't sure if he was in trouble. He stepped aside and invited me in, but I didn't cross the threshold. "I just need 10 minutes," I said. He nodded, looked over his shoulder. "Carmen is upstairs with the kids. You should greet them before you leave." I didn't respond to that. He shifted, hands in his pockets. "Then I heard you were upset." I took the photo from my bag, printed, not digital, and held it up. 8 chairs, lit candles, wine glasses raised high, with no room for a ninth. I wasn't confused, Emiliano. I was outside. He opened his mouth, then closed it. He looked down at the photo. "There was just a lot to do," he muttered. "I thought Rosario handled the invitations." "You said you saved me a spot," I said in a low voice. "But you didn't. You never had the intention." He started to speak again, but I took the letter from my coat pocket and handed it to him. He looked at the envelope in confusion. "I quit," I said. "Of what?" "Of being your emergency fund, your silent support, your last option. I won't finance a place they never thought to seat me in." He didn't open the letter, just stood there, stunned. "I've canceled the transfers, all of them. If you need help, there are options: banks, advisors, credit cards. But not me." He swallowed. "You're serious?" For the first time in a long time, Carmen's steps and the kids' voices echoed faintly from above. Emiliano turned, perhaps hoping they'd soften me. I didn't budge. "I came to tell you in person," I said. "That's more than you gave me." I took a step back before he could say anything else. My car was still warm when I got in. I drove with my palms firmly on the steering wheel. They arrived the following night, one after the other, as if they had rehearsed. First Rosario, then Isabel, then Emiliano. Nobody warned me. I didn't need them to. They came like people who had just lost the keys to a house they forgot was mine. We sat in the living room. They didn't ask permission, they just took their places as usual, as if I were the one who owed an explanation. Rosario began, "Mom, are you exaggerating?" Isabel crossed her arms. "It was a dinner. Just one." Emiliano didn't look at me. "Are you making this about money?" I let them talk. I didn't interrupt, even when Rosario said she was just venting in the group, or when Isabel rolled her eyes and called this a tantrum. Not even when Emiliano said, "I never asked you to give anything." It was then that I finally spoke. "I didn't say you asked. You just waited." And I gave because I thought that's what love looked like. They fell silent for the first time. I looked at each one. "When was the last time one of you called me just to ask how I am, Rosario?" She blinked. Isabel looked away. Emiliano finally looked at me but said nothing. "I was outside your house on Christmas Eve. I saw you laughing. I saw the table. 8 chairs. Rosario opened her mouth, then closed it. "You forgot me before I canceled a single peso," I said. All I did was stop pretending I didn't notice. They stayed silent, shifting like strangers in a room I no longer recognized. I stood up slowly and walked to the kitchen. I brewed tea while they were still in the living room, not knowing what to say now that the script had changed. Alina arrived alone the next afternoon. No message, no warning, just a gentle knock. Her soft voice called, "Grandma," and she brought a paper bakery bag from the shop on 6th Street and a pot with a marigold. "I thought you might need something sweet," she said, "and something to take care of." I stepped aside to let her in. Her hug was real, the kind that wraps both shoulders and asks for nothing in return. We sat at the table. She didn't mention the family. She didn't ask why they were upset or what I had done. She just opened the bag and took out 2 cinnamon rolls, still lukewarm. "I saw they removed your name from the daycare payment system," she said gently. "Mom was yelling about it on the phone, but I just wanted to see how you are." I didn't respond immediately. My throat was tight. Instead, I reached for the pot. "Do you want to help me plant it?" We went to the back porch. We dug a shallow hole near the rosemary and placed the marigold as if it had always belonged there. Alina pressed her fingers into the earth next to mine. "You deserve to live for yourself," she said softly, smoothing the ground. I looked at her. The same girl who used to leave scribbled notes on my fridge, who always insisted on carrying her backpack even if it dragged on the ground. "I think I'm learning how," I whispered. We watered the flower together, no lectures, no blame, just calm. She left late, with the promise to return soon, no matter what her mother said. And when the door closed behind her, I realized I had smiled for the first time in days. I signed up for a painting class at the community center on a quiet Wednesday morning. No one asked why I was there. Nobody needed a reason, just brushes, paper, and a room full of women rediscovering color. That afternoon, I went to a bookstore I used to pass but never entered. I chose 3 novels from the shelves, one of mystery, a travel memoir, and another just because the title made me smile. I paid in cash and didn't think twice. A week later, I drove to San Miguel de Allende alone. I booked a room with a balcony and dined at a small cafe with no reservations, no conversation, no pressure. I sat with warm bread and wine and listened to my own breathing. Back at the hotel, I opened my journal. For the first time in months, the page didn't feel heavy. "I didn't go too far," I wrote. "I just gave to the wrong people." I underlined it once, then closed the cover. The next morning, I opened the curtains and let the sun fall completely across my lap. The room contained only my things, my peace, my name. The messages began again. "First Rosario, Alina's tuition is due next week. Can you help just this once? Isabel, I'm behind on my rent. It's been a tough month. Emiliano, the transmission failed." I wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious. I read each one carefully. Then I opened a new message and wrote just once, "I'm not available for financial support. I wish you all growth." I didn't sign it with love, but I didn't mean harm. I just meant, I'm done. I put down my cell phone and walked to the kitchen window. The orchid on the sill had begun to bloom, 3 delicate white petals curving toward the light. I watered it carefully and cleaned the leaves. Then I opened the page marked in my road guide, Oaxaca, the coast, the tall trees, and cool mornings. I made a packing list, 2 books, my walking shoes, a wind scarf, my new set of brushes. Outside, a bird landed on the fence and stayed. I didn't rush to capture the moment, I just watched it, still and complete. Months later, I sat at a small table on a patio in Puerto Escondido, drinking coffee and watching people go about their lives under the awning, cloth bags, guitars, dogs on leashes. I ate a warm croissant from the bakery. No one in front of me, no one expecting anything. And I felt full. In my bag were postcards I had written from every stop on my journey. You didn't bend, you opened. You didn't disappear, you returned. You weren't invited, you came anyway. Most days, I walked along the beach and painted. Nothing polished, nothing to impress, just light in the watercolor where it wasn't expected. I had a copy of Elena Poniatowska's poems in my coat pocket. I read one every morning as a prayer, then tucked it away and lived accordingly. No one was writing to me asking for money anymore. No one sent guilt-ridden apologies. They had adjusted. So had I. The table I was sitting at wasn't saved for me. I built it. And now, every time I sit, I know this place. This peace, this breath, was never theirs to take or offer. It was always mine to claim.